If your girlfriend ever says, baby, don't get me anything for Valentine's Day, what she really means is, I'm sleeping with your brother. Just,
Damn!
I dug a little too deep on that bitch. Welcome to the Omar Says Podcast, the most egotistical, self-centered, self-indulgent podcast you will ever hear. The Omar Says Podcast, where the only thing that matters is what Omar says. On today's show... Hello and welcome to the Omar Says Podcast. Thanks again for tuning in. Would you please share my podcast with your friends, neighbors, family, loved ones, people you hate, people that owe you money, in-laws, exes?
Man, you are one pathetic loser.
So I just got finished performing at an elementary school for elementary school teachers, Crockett Elementary School, and I had a blast. These are the times that I am grateful for having learned how to write clean. And for those comedians out there that don't necessarily write clean, I encourage you to start. It's very easy to write clean and then be dirty, but it's very difficult to write dirty and try to make that clean. It just doesn't translate. It doesn't work.
What you just said is one of the most insanely idiotic things I have ever heard. At no point in your rambling, incoherent response were you even close to anything that could be considered a rational thought. Everyone in this room is now dumber for having listened to it.
The best thing that I can tell you is that you just have to know how to write a joke. You have to know what you're doing. You have to know what elicits laughter. It's not always something shocking. It's got to be cleverly done. It's got to be cleverly written. Now, the performance today was for a staff of teachers who have been sitting in an in-service all day, from morning till the afternoon when we went on at 2 p.m. And a lot of comedians shy away from shows like this because they don't think they can be clean. They don't think that their jokes will resonate with the audience who is looking to not upset the administration. It's one thing to laugh out loud at a bar show or at a comedy club or something that's explicit on TV, but it's quite a different matter to actually laugh at that kind of subject matter or those kind of dirty jokes or when you're around your colleagues, around your boss.
The swearing, Paul. It has no nobility.
Everybody talks like that.
They do not? What do you think I say when I go to the feed store in town? Oh, now, Wally, give me a bag of that effing pig feed and 10 pounds that bitchly cow corn. And in the bank, do I tell Mrs. Bollinger, oh, here's one big bastard of a check. Give me some of your Christing money. There, look there. See what you made me do.
I wasn't nervous about the performance at all because I've performed clean before. In these cases, you almost have to be squeaky clean. Here's what I can say to those comedians out there that shy away from doing these shows. If you've ever written a corny, squeaky clean joke that you just know doesn't go over very well at a bar or an open mic or at a comedy club, I can tell you this. Those jokes go over big in a squeaky clean show. So don't throw away your babies. Don't kill your babies. Keep those clean jokes so that when you do get to use them in front of an audience that expects clean material, you'll have all the ammunition you need.
I'm sorry, Jerry. I just don't think this is gonna work. I'm sorry. I guess things changed for me on Tuesday night.
What happened Tuesday night?
I saw your act.
My act? What does that have to do with anything?
It's just so much fluff.
I can't believe this.
I was invited to perform at that show by a local producer and comedian, Jerry Carnes. He runs the comedy group El Paso Underground Comedy. I've been doing a lot of work with him over the years, since I believe 2009, 2010. And Jerry's always looking out for me, and he'll book me for some of these things. And there was a time when Jerry booked me for a clean type of show at a high school. And I don't want to say I was booed because I wasn't really booed, but what's worse than getting booed off the stage? That's right, standing there doing your jokes to absolute silence. And on that particular show, I went up there, and I don't even recall some of the jokes that I performed that night, but I know one of the jokes was, I wouldn't say it was racially motivated, but it had some racial undertones, and half, if not 3/4 of our audience was black. So yeah, it wasn't a racist joke. In fact, I'll tell you what the joke was. The joke, and this has worked at a comedy club before, so I think the most embarrassing moment for a human being has got to be backing away from an ATM machine with only a receipt. Now, I've done that joke at a comedy club before, and I tagged it, or I followed that punchline up where I said with only a receipt. There was one black gentleman in the audience, and this was in Arizona, and he laughed. Everybody laughed at the punchline. And then I looked specifically at the black gentleman in the front row. I said, "Right, black guy?" So that got a huge response. Everybody cracked up. The black gentleman in the front row cracked up. Everybody was having a good time. It was a comedy club. People had been drinking. All inhibitions were thrown out the window. But at this particular high school, for some reason or another, I felt it was okay for me to do that. And I didn't necessarily pick out one black person from the audience. I think I said something like, "Right, black guys?"
You
And from there, it just went bad. I think what happened is that the audience was almost telling me, from this point out, we're not going to laugh anymore. We don't care if the material's funny from this point on, we're not going to laugh. This was not performed in front of a bunch of teachers or a faculty. It was performed in front of parents. It was a parents' night, and it was function for step, I think stomp or step dance, something like that. So they had cheerleaders and dance groups from all across the city come in and perform, and most of them were African American, and yeah.
Don't mess with the bull, young man. You'll get the horns.
Yeah, so I didn't get booed off, which probably would have been better, but I didn't get booed off. I just was greeted with silence, and I went up there to do, I think, 10 minutes. That was 10 minutes of complete torture. Oh, here's another thing. I took my kids with me on that performance, and I don't know if they lost respect for me that day or what the deal was, but I think maybe they've blocked it out of their memory, but yeah, I did take my kids to that one. Anyway, vindication happened today at an elementary school, and I did a lot of, I think I got away with some. I got away with saying she wants the D. That's right, I got away with saying that. Okay, and in context, the joke is a lot funnier if you heard it in context, but I literally told one of the teachers there, "Look at her, she's ready for the D." And of course, I went out to the punchline after that and got a huge roar of laughter. And if you've seen my set, maybe you know what I'm talking about. And if you haven't, I'm not going to share the joke. You need to come out and see one of my shows. But I got away with it. And the beauty of writing clean is that you don't necessarily have to write completely clean, or in other words, the subject matter doesn't have to be completely clean. You just got to find a different way to say something that's not otherwise clean. You need to find a way to make it sound clean, even though it's not. The audience will give you credit for not being dirty, but being dirty, yet remaining clean. Does that make any sense? So I was on a roll up there. I was contracted to do 15 minutes, and I think I did about 16 or 17. I went a little bit over my time. My last bit was a little bit longer than I thought. But of course, you wait for the laughter, and my last bit has some laughter points in it where I had to wait a little bit. But it was fun. It was fun. The teachers had a good time, and let me tell you something. For those of you that know Jerry Carnes here locally, he's probably one of the most, I don't want to say dirty comedian, but he's one of the most, he's one of the comedians that crosses the line most frequently than most comedians. And I'm going to tell you this about Jerry. I have seen him perform and do really well in front of a bar crowd. I've seen him perform in front of that same high school that I did poorly on. I've seen him perform there, and I've seen him kill it. Okay, I've seen him do extremely well. And then today, of course, again, I saw him do extremely well again. Jerry Carnes is one of those comedians that, yes, he might be vulgar, but he knows how to clean it up, and his jokes, and he knows how to make those jokes. He knows how to deliver those jokes, even the dirty ones, to different audiences. So my hat's off to you, Jerry, and thanks very much for the gig. And you guys, that if you ever get an opportunity to perform in a clean environment, or an environment that demands clean material, you've got to do the elementary schools. You just have to. It was a blast. So comedians, you got to learn how to write clean. You just have to. You have to. You can always make it dirty later.
If I can change, and you can change, everybody can change. Każdy może być zmienić.
Jerry had a joke today about his dogs having diarrhea in the backyard. He didn't say diarrhea, though. He didn't use any gross terms to describe what his dogs did in the backyard. He used the term mudslides. He went out there and his wife stepped on a bunch of mudslides left behind by the dogs. The audience knew what he was talking about. And the fact that and here's the thing, that the fact that he used that term to describe what the dogs did, that got a laugh. Can you believe that's a punchline? The fact that he changed it and they laughed. That is a punchline. And for those comedians out there that haven't learned how to do that yet, take somebody, and it's very difficult to take dirty jokes that were originally written dirty and try to clean them up. It's very difficult. Can it be done? I think it can be done. Maybe you can go through your set to find out, okay, well, this joke was dirty. Can I clean it up?
The hell with that.
Enough about me, let's talk about you, the comedy fan. Whether at a nightclub, bar, or somebody's backyard, you attend the shows. Good or bad, what story do you have to tell? Go ahead, bring it!
Okay, so a few years ago, a coworker of mine who did comedy locally invited me to go watch a show. So my friend and I, we went ahead and showed up to the show, sat up front, and watched a few sets. And there was this one comedian, we'll call him, I don't know, he called himself The Fox. So anyways, The Fox goes up there, he starts his set. Not much in the way of jokes. He's not really doing so hot. And a couple of times we made eye contact and I felt bad for the guy because he basically started bombing pretty badly. The whole room was silent. You know, I wanted to laugh, especially because we were sitting up front. I totally wanted to show him the support, but I couldn't laugh at things that weren't funny. So then at some point, after delivering a joke, so he singles me out and he basically says something like, why are you so covered up? Take off your coat and show us your tits. I'm like, what? Is he talking to me? And my friend was kind of, is he talking to you? Is he talking to us? Is he pointing to us? And I said, yeah, I guess he is. So this guy is like, yeah, show us your tits. Come on, get up, show us your tits. I'm like, that's totally not cool. I could totally understand from the perspective of comic that's being heckled by an audience member for them to kind of let these guys have it when they're giving him a hard time. He's up there trying to do a job, trying to get people to laugh, have a good time, and some audience members deserve it. And if I'm sitting up front, I totally expect to be interacted with. That's totally cool. But from my perspective, I'm just there trying to have a good time, and this guy singled me out in front of an entire room full of people. And once he did that, my friends started letting him have it. Some guy in the back booed. People were kind of talking smack to this guy, and he's kind of like, oh, whatever. And he kind of moved on from that, and he was up there maybe another minute or so, and he finally got off the stage. But, it's just not cool for a comedian to do something like that. He's bombing. He just needs to kind of just go with it and kind of take it. And once he's done, just get off the stage and move on. But there's no need to kind of resort to that, to trying to single somebody out, trying to make them feel crappy or try to get laughs in that way. So I support the local comedy scene. I try to show up to as many of these things as possible. I support local talent. And when I go to these shows, I expect the same quality of performance and shows that I would see at a comedy club. Some of these shows, it's hard to kind of sit through sometimes because they do things that are just like starting the show late. They advertise the show to start at 10 o'clock. I'm totally for that. Show up at 10 o'clock, even 15 till, order my drinks, sit down, try to get a good spot, and these guys start shows at 11 o'clock, sometimes 11:30. And then they last till 1:30 in the morning, 2 o'clock. And a lot of these shows are during the week. People will try to get out there and support these guys, but when things like that happen, you kind of turn them off. You turn them away because they kind of have to think like, oh, well, the last time I showed up to a 10 o'clock show, it didn't start till 11:30. Didn't get home till 1:30, 2 o'clock. So it's kind of hard to want to be there when that's the case. I've gone to a few open mics, and you kind of know what to expect from that. Not everybody's going to be good. I know a lot of these guys are just starting out, and you're not going to get quality sets all the time. I totally get that, and I'm still go out there and I show up for these people. But when a show is being, produced and it's making it seem like I'm going to go and watch this great show with funny people and I'm going to laugh all the way through, then that's what I expect when I get there. It's kind of tough to get to a show and then have to watch somebody that's quality of open mic, and it sounds like that's the first time they've been up there.
Damn!